And you also asked about the planet. The animal farming is a nightmare. Cows are releasing methane into the air. Factory farming is responsible for up to 87% of greenhouse gases. And that number is from Dr. Silas Rao's Climate Healers paper that he wrote. And a lot of it has to do with like burning back forests, for example, in the Amazon,
Yes.
where they're just clear cutting space to not only have more livestock, but also to grow crops for livestock.
Welcome to the Rising Lioness Podcast on All About Animals Radio, a place dedicated to animals and all those who act to protect and advocate for them. Hi, I'm your host, Erica Salvamini, and I'm thrilled and honored to be here representing All About Animals Radio, using my voice for the animals. Thank you for joining us for what intends to be a thought-provoking and soul-inspiring series where we discuss topics aimed at understanding the importance of the relationship between empathy, animal rights, and our peaceful coexistence with the animal kingdom. And now on to our show. Welcome to another episode of the Rising Lioness. Today we embark on a transformative journey where compassion prevails over cruelty and plant-based living guides us to a healthier humanity and a healed planet. We are joined by Diane Rose-Solomon, founder of What's Plant-Based Cooking Good Looking, and a passionate advocate for a plant-based lifestyle. Diane has been vegan since 2019. She originally went vegan for the animals, and other than breakfast and making salads, she says that she didn't have any idea how to cook anything plant-based. That is, until she took a vegan cooking class. It was that class that helped build Diane's confidence. It enabled her to see that once you have the proper ingredients and a good recipe, it's just as simple as cooking the old-fashioned way. Diane has a master's in Social Entrepreneurship and Change from Pepperdine University and recently completed a plant-based nutrition certification at Cornell. The Cornell program taught her how empowered we can be by choosing a whole foods, plant-based lifestyle. That's when she became inspired to support others on their plant-based lifestyle journey. Welcome, Diane. It's so great to have you here today on the Rising Lioness.
Thank you so much, Erica. I'm so happy to be here.
Super. Many of our listeners probably can relate to your journey. I know I can. When I started my plant-based journey for cooking, I was already a vegan and I found it a little bit overwhelming. It was during COVID and I, like a lot of people, was going through some changes and transformations in my own personal life. I became a single mom. I had two boys who were just approaching teenager, going from adolescence to young teens. And I wanted to make sure that I could feed myself, and everybody would be happy. I didn't want mutiny on my hands. So at first I started buying things for them that were pre-made until eventually I was like, I couldn't even do that. I couldn't prepare the meats, any animal proteins. And so I just had to talk with them and was like, I need your help, guys. Crisis of conscience here. What can I do? And they both were great. They were like, because I didn't want to force them, obviously, to be vegan. They're, humans with their own minds of their own. And they said if it was good food and it tasted great, that they would be happy to eat it. So that was where it kind of began. And I've been looking ever since to try and make good vegan, plant-based foods. And I came across you and your business and I thought, wow, this is really great. Let me look into this a little bit further. And that was kind of how we connected. And I understand your transition to a plant-based lifestyle was driven by your concern for animals. And I was wondering if you could share how your personal connection with animal welfare inspired you to embark on this cooking adventure and ultimately led you to the creation of What's Cooking Good Looking.
Yeah, what's plant-based cooking good looking?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like we have similar trajectories, and that we both originally went vegan for the animals, and then you sort of figure it out as you go, right?
Huh.
And I guess my journey it really, I guess, started in college when I took a philosophy class and we read Animal Liberation.
Wow.
And I thought, I can't eat animals anymore. How can I do this? But I was an immature 17 or 18 or 19-year-old who I was probably vegetarian for a week or 2 weeks, I don't know. And nobody else around me was. And it wasn't easy to be vegetarian back in the 80s.
Right.
And I'm sure if I had a little bit more of a backbone, I could have done it. But it was just easier to fall back onto what everybody else is eating. And I see that so much. So I can understand where people are coming from. But there was always something in the back of my head after I read that book. It's Peter Singer's book, and he has an updated version. It's called Animal Liberation Now. And he's really quite amazing. But it was always something in the back of my head. So fast forward to the 90s, and we had accidentally adopted our first dog, and I got involved with companion animal rescue. And I wrote books a few years later about dog rescue and for kids books and for adult books. And I was, saving animals, right? But it was only companion animals.
Yeah.
And I don't really remember if there was like one thing, but I think I saw some videos about what was going on with in the factory farms. And I'm sure we've all been exposed to at least some of these videos, the horrors of what happens, to the cows and the pigs. It's just horrifying. And like, whoa. And I always had this hierarchy of, okay, cows and pigs aren't cute, so I'm not going to eat them. So they were like, or they are cute, so I'm not going to eat them. So I stopped eating them first. And then eventually chickens were no longer on the plate. But there was, the longest time, there was this big disconnect between my desire to save dogs and cats, but I was still eating other animals.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing this cartoon, this like little comic strip, and it was a dog on the outside of the fence and the cow on the inside of the fence in a pasture. And the cow is saying to the dog, how come you get to sleep in their bed and I end up on their plate?
Aww.
And it was one of those, oh my God, like it was that light bulb moment.
Wow.
Like, I can't do this anymore. And so I think that's what got me to vegetarian for a few years. I was vegetarian for a number of years. And then you start learning more about what's really going on in the dairy and egg industry.
Sure.
And then you say, that's it. And it felt like a big leap at the time to go from vegetarian to vegan. In retrospect, no problem. But I remember thinking, how am I going to give up eggs? How am I going to give up cheese? Like, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So but it clicked. And in 2019, I was fully vegan, but I didn't know how to cook anything, as you mentioned. And it made me sad because just like you, I have a family and I wanted to be able to cook for them, or at least cook for myself. Like,
right.
I was
not be bored by your bland 5 things that you could eat a day.
Yeah. Or the unhealthy stuff that,
right.
Like
that wasn't an option for me. I always wanted to have the organic stuff. That's another whole other conversation, right?
It is. Yeah.
Veganics, like, why do we have to choose between organic food or vegan food? Why can't we have good vegan organic food? But that's another episode.
You just have to, look and shop.
It's properly. A little harder, right?
Yeah, certainly process.
You definitely can.
If you're cooking for yourself, you can do it. If you're going out to eat or buying stuff, it's much more difficult.
Right.
But same thing, like, Trader Joe's is awesome. They have great vegan stuff, but it's processed and it's got a lot of oil and it's got a lot of salt in it. And it's fine for every once in a while, but I missed cooking, I'm not a chef, but just to like pull a meal together, let's pull a meal together. And so I was sad about it. And I had some vegan cookbooks and I would open them up and I looked at the ingredients and I would like freak out. I'm like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. And I'd like slam the cookbook closed and say, screw it, I'm not doing it. But I was following this one vegan blogger. She had all these recipes. I never touched them. They came into my email box, but I was too terrified to touch them. But one day she announced that she was going to be hosting a cooking class. Wow. And it was like 10 or 12 weeks. And I was like, done. Like, I'm going to do this. I didn't think about it. I signed right up. And it was so great because even though a lot of the recipes aren't necessarily in my rotation now. It was exposure to techniques, and it was exposure to ingredients, and how do you press tofu, and what's liquid smoke, and what's nutritional yeast. And then you have it in your pantry and you used it in a recipe. You're like, oh, I get it. I know what that does now. And then you can see another recipe and say, I know what those ingredients are.
Right.
And it really built my confidence.
Yeah. Takes
And
the fear out.
it takes the fear out. So after that class was done, I said, I want to share what I know how to do now with other people. And not everybody necessarily wants to take a cooking class. So I started this Facebook group called What's Plant-Based Cooking Good Looking, and started sharing what I was cooking with all like my tips and my tricks, and just whatever I did to make the recipe easier. For example, I'll give you an example. I am a lazy chef, and so for the recipe calls for garlic
too.
I have no problem getting the pre-chopped garlic. And I know like every chef out there is like groaning right now, like, no, take the extra minute to chop the garlic. I'm like, no, that minute's precious to me. It's already chopped by somebody else. I'm going to get the. So I'm all about the shortcuts if they're healthy shortcuts, right?
Right.
And so, these little tips and tricks that I shared with people in my group. And then I took that plant-based nutrition class that you mentioned, the one at Cornell in 2022. And then I was just able to elevate the cooking that I was doing from just like vegan cooking, getting a meal up, to how can we make it healthier, and how can we reduce or omit the oil. And I just learned all these things about the health benefits of eating healthy plant-based eating.
Right.
And I was able to parlay that into my cooking as well. And then I started blogging about not only the health benefits, but what's near and dear to me is the animal part. So I blogging about animal sanctuaries and animal welfare. And so the vegan's always been my top priority, but now I've added in the healthy part of it too, without going crazy. Like,
yeah,
I know some people who will only eat the super duper healthy stuff. Like they won't go to a restaurant. I'm like, no, if a restaurant's got a vegan meal, I'm going. I'm delighted.
I'm with you.
And so now I'm offering classes for people like me or you who just want to get more comfortable cooking plant-based. And I started a coaching practice as well for people who wanted some more one-on-one. Dogs and cats are still near and dear to my heart. I still am very much part of animal rescue, but I'm also now more involved with wild horse, like the plight of the wild horses in the United States, also the farm animal rescue. I follow all these farm animal sanctuaries online, and I have a thing for the pigs and the cows. I just do.
I know. I'm with you. It's like we're animal soul sisters or something. Yeah. I know. I just every day it's one more thing. It's one more animal. It's one more blight against the earth, and it's just So every little step we take every day towards a better, earth for us all is a good thing. So let me get back on track. Apologies, everybody, for the technology glitch there. So I did take your cauliflower curry cooking class, and I loved it. I thought it was fabulous. And it wasn't just fun, but it was surprisingly easy. And it inspired me to try more plant-based recipes with my kids, not just for my kids, but with my kids, because we took the class together. And it was great because it wasn't complicated. There weren't too many ingredients. There were things in there like chickpeas that they won't normally eat. And it's not such a foreign thing. They know what they are, but they're like, I'd rather not, leave them off my plate. And because they were involved in making the meal, they tried the whole thing. They tried it and they loved it. And it's like, that's all you got to get them to do, right? Is just try it. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to like it if it's something good. Mm-hmm. And the meal was absolutely delicious. And it was really fun to make. So I wanted to just say thank you, and also ask, like, what is your secret to making this plant-based cooking accessible to everyday people like me and my kids, for instance?
Well, first of all, you're a genius for involving them in the process, because that's half of it. Because, especially kids are like, I don't want that, because it's foreign. They don't know what it is. Right. But when we've involved them in the process, then they want to taste. It's like a science experiment, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And so they got to play. I mean, I'm thinking back, like, of all the things that, like, I threw when my mother like gave me like a spoon when I was really little, and some raisins, and like we put everything, and I would have tasted it. Like, I'm sure it was nothing that anybody should be eating, but, you know, but I would have eaten it just because I had put it together. And I
Right.
think that there's something about that. And so when involving your kids in the cooking process was brilliant of you.
Well,
But as far
thanks.
as like how making it accessible to everyday people, the first thing that comes to mind is I'm such an everyday person. I'm so not special. I'm not special in the kitchen. I'm not a chef. I'm just like a regular person. I love watching some of the chefs out there and some of the little cooking demonstrations that they do. It's fun, but to me, it's just entertainment. It's totally intimidating to
Right.
watch that.
Yeah.
And so all I wanted to do was be able to cook like I used to, provide a meal for my family, but just not harm the animals anymore. It was just make it basic. So like what you said earlier about the cooking class that you took, the cauliflower cooking class, the chef that I've been partnering with, Steph, she's amazing. She's so laid back. She's approachable. She just gives you these tips and these tricks. You know, she just kind of like she's just so mellow and fun to watch, and she gives you great tips. She makes it easy. So it's just easy to share that with people because it's not intimidating, it's not
Right.
overwhelming. And you know, the other element is for people who don't want to take the cooking class, I just share other tips and resources with people. So, you know, everybody's like in a different place. Like some people don't need a cooking class and they just want some recipes and some resources. And some people really, you know, they could really use that extra help of the cooking class. And I'm one of them. So
Yeah. Yeah.
what, what
I
made,
agree. It was easy. It wasn't intimidating. And going into it, you always think like, oh my God, what's this going to be like? Am I going to really be able to do this? And yeah, it was cool. I liked it. We liked it. It was great. So
good.
thank you.
You're welcome.
And
Thank you.
yeah, I highly encourage everybody to check out your site and your cooking classes and all the other stuff that you provide, which we're going to get into. In fact, in addition to cooking classes, you also offer coaching for people
Mhm.
wanting to get started on their journey. So I was wondering if you could share some insights into the services and resources you provide and how they support people on this plant-based journey.
Yeah. Well, like as we were just speaking about, for some people, recipes are that's all they need. Like, I just need a good recipe. Okay, great. Here's a recipe. Go for it. Other people like me like need a cooking class, you know, and I wasn't the only one in that cooking class. And, you know, I've got people taking my cooking classes. So clearly there's a need for that, right? And then other people need even some more support than that. So that's why I started offering the coaching because there's people that say, you know, it runs the gamut. Again, it's a spectrum of people who say, I have no idea anything about plant-based anything. I'm brand new to this. I don't even know where to begin. Okay, I can help you start there. Or for, you know, another one of my clients, she's like, I just need the accountability for like a few months of having to meet with you every week and saying, I made this recipe and I tried this and this is what I ate when I was out. So some people just need accountability.
Yeah.
And another person just needed like the one-on-one, like sit down with me, walk me through what we're doing. And she's like, I don't know how to cook this. I'm like, I do, and I'll make a video for you. So I'll make videos for my clients of me just cooking dinner. So it's not like a cooking class, it's really informal, but at least they get to see the steps. Because some people are really, I'm very visual too. So, you know, some people just want to be able to say, oh, that's what that means on the recipe. Or like, I didn't even want to read the recipe. I just want to watch you cook it. So everybody learns differently. So I just want to help make it easy for people wherever they are in the process.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we include ingredient videos. So if you sign up for the class, for example, I make videos and give you an ingredient list because like some people want to watch the videos to see what does the product look like that I'm going to be finding in the store because I don't never heard of it before. What does it look like? Does it come in a jar? Does it come in a bag? Like, what is it that you're telling me to get here?
Right.
And because it's really new for a lot of people. So, and then another one of the resources is that I interviewed a colleague of mine. She's a plant-based nutritionist. And again, she was there to help dispel some of the myths about plant-based nutrition, just some of the questions that we hear all the time, like where do vegans get their protein and how am I going to know if I'm getting all the right vitamins? So she helped address some of those concerns, excuse me, in our interview. And so we just have I also have a lot of free resources, um, what do I have? I have the recipes, and I've got the blogs, and I've got a newsletter. So just a little bit, there's something for everybody.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like a comprehensive program based on, like you said, wherever you are on your journey. So I think that's great. And, we often hear about the health benefits too of a plant-based diet. For some people, that's why they make the change. For others, they don't really want to hear about that, or, whatever the case may be. But there are, without a doubt, health benefits to going plant-based. And that just made me think about a movie, Game Changer. I don't know if you ever saw that. Super amazing, groundbreaking flick. I got my kids to watch that. Every once in a while, I'll hold out. I'll be like, tonight's mom's movie night. Let me pick. And I picked that at one point. And, it was produced by James Cameron and Arnold Schwarzenegger. So it's got like all these amazing people in it and influential figures, star-studded. And it gets to talking about exactly the health benefits of a plant-based diet. Like it was mind-blowing to see all these people, a lot of them very famous and very big and strong, because they always say, right? Oh, if you're in a plant-based diet, you're going to be weak, you're going to be deficient in vitamins, and you're going to be this and you're going to be that. And this movie blows all of that out of the water. And so I was wondering if anybody's interested, check out that movie. It's a really good movie. But if Diane, could highlight some of the health benefits and explain why they're essential for individuals and our planet.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I love that movie. Game Changers is so good. And I mean, as you were saying, they highlight elite vegan athletes who are following a healthy plant-based lifestyle. And it's amazing because they just completely blow any preconceived ideas that you're not going to get the nutrition that you need when you're eating plant-based. But plant-based has been proven as the healthiest, and it does, plant-based lifestyle reverses diabetes. I mean, I've seen it with my own clients and my family members who have tried, and not even so, even just going vegan can help do that. Prevent and reverse cancer. I mean, I'm not talking all cancers. I'm not saying it is the answer to everybody's health problems all the time, but there is so much evidence for, not only in the lab, but clinically as well. Right. Reversing heart disease, lowering cholesterol. A lot of people will experience weight loss, and preventing Alzheimer's. So it's not just the physical, like it's just so all encompassing. And it's like what's good for one part of you, it's also good for all parts of your body. Sure. And the opposite is true. Yeah. Eating animals, meat, cheese, eggs, and dairy, it causes these diseases. So to me, it's like obvious. Why would I eat those things? It's not good for our health. And you also asked about the planet. The animal farming is a nightmare. Cows are releasing methane into the air. Factory farming is responsible for up to 87% of greenhouse gases. And that number is from Dr. Silas Rao's Climate Healers paper that he wrote. And a lot of it has to do with like burning back forests, for example, in the Amazon, where they're just clear cutting space to not only have more livestock, but also to grow crops for livestock. But it's all that burning, it's releasing all that CO2 into the air. It's terrible, terrible. And then there's like, if you think about pig farms, they just wash the pig excrement into these like waterways, and they're called slurry pits. And then these slurry pits leach into the local waterways in neighborhoods. And so many of the pig farms, for example, are located in poor communities. And, these people don't have the same voice. It's kind of like not in my backyard. Well, this is where these pig farms are. Yeah. And it's negatively impacting the health of the local people. It's in the water. It's like everything about it's not okay. Yeah. And then, you said individuals and our planet. Like I think of, and I know you do too, as animals, as individuals. So it's impacting our health. It's impacting the health of our planet, and certainly impacting the well-being of any of these animals. So
We're
Stop eating
sentient
animals.
beings and
Yeah.
feel and think, and for so many reasons, many of which you just listed, going plant-based would just be a really beautiful thing for all of us. And it's not easy to make big changes in our lives, but some are really important. Some changes really need to be looked at. And if we know, we can't turn away. And willful ignorance isn't really an answer. It's not really an
Yeah.
option for us anymore as a
I agree.
on the
And
planet. Because
there's a lot of people who like, I couldn't do this overnight. Well, I didn't do it overnight. It took
right,
me a while. So like,
yeah,
try a little bit. Try a meal. Try,
good.
like the more plants you eat and the less animals you eat, it's better for everybody.
Yeah. And you're just going to feel better. You'll realize it little by little. The brain fog starts to lift. Your emotional well-being starts to improve. So emotionally, mentally, physically, like you were mentioning, and then energetically, we're now no longer ingesting this suffering of
Yeah, death.
animals,
You're
because
ingesting
when we
death.
eat that flesh that is of an animal that lived a tortured life, that commingles with our own energy, and you cannot deny that. It's been scientifically proven. Energy is real. We are made up of energy, so it all matters, all of it. And
Yeah.
right, nobody's saying anybody's got to do anything right away, but all anybody has to do is read the news and see what's going on in the world, and know that eventually these changes are going to have to be made. So we may as well start to do it at our own pace, at a rate that we're comfortable with, a little at a time, a little at a time. I didn't do it overnight either. And so, yeah, I agree. I think everything that you shared with us is wonderful information, and I thank you. And, one of our main podcast themes, obviously, is animal advocacy. And so I was wondering, how does embracing a plant-based lifestyle align with choosing compassion for animals and reducing cruelty in the food industry?
Well, first of all, I just want to add something that we were just talking about, because when you do eat plant-based and you have a value of I care about animals, now you're in alignment. Now you're in energetic alignment with what you say you care about, and your actions are, everything's aligned. So I totally get what you're talking about, the energy, and we're just aligned. But there's some more staggering numbers. Are 77% of the Earth's land mass is devoted to raising livestock, but this produces less than 20% of the world's supply of calories. So there's like a huge mismatch here about how much land is being used and the animals are being used, but yet the calorie, element isn't there. It's such a waste. And people ask me all the time, where do vegans get their proteins? Well, we get them from plants, because if you think about it, in order for anything to grow, it needs protein. So a plant to grow, it requires protein to grow. And of course, different plants have different amounts of protein in them.
Sure.
But if you think about some of the largest land animals, gorillas, cows, horses, giraffes, what do they all eat?
Yeah.
They eat plants.
Yeah.
And so when you're feeding a cow plant, grass, or whatever they feed cows these days, they're just the middleman, right? So just take the middleman out and just go direct to the source where all of the nutrients are in the first place. It's healthier for you. We've been talking about the planet. It's healthier for the planet. It's certainly healthier for the animals that we're not eating.
Right.
And, as far as being vegan, because there's the vegan conversation, there's the plant-based conversation, because vegan also includes not even using any products that contain leather or
Right.
Silks or wools,
That's
to
right.
to the best of our ability. I mean, our
Right.
world has animal products in them, so we just do it to the best of our ability. But this is all like a big ask for people. We were just talking about this a minute ago.
Right.
So if we start with our food choices, it's a
Right.
great place to start, because we make that choice 3 times a day. We have to eat, and so it's a good place, even if one of your meals every day is no longer an egg dish, but it's oatmeal, or you learn how to make a tofu scramble. Just one meal a day is going to make a difference. I drive past a field of cows and I have such mixed emotions. Like, I love seeing them. They're so beautiful. They're so sweet. But I feel so bad because I know they're going to end up on somebody's plate.
Right.
Right?
You know why they're there.
We know why they're there, and they're innocent. They're innocent. They deserve better than the cruelty that's inflicted on them. They're bred to be slaughtered. It's just so sad. And so that compassion clicks for one set of animals, and then it maps over to other animals. And, it's just, you can just start somewhere is really the message.
Yeah.
Just start somewhere.
Yeah. Like you were saying, being in alignment with all of that, it's, that's a game changer in life. When I moved recently, I was downsizing, and it was a great cathartic thing for me. And I got rid of a lot of things, and I always donate. I always make sure that everything that we have, whatever we're not using, it goes to someone or some charity organization that needs it. And I was like, this is it. This is the major purge. I like to keep things that I get rid of things that if I haven't touched it in 3 years, it's gone. But certain things, a good purse, a good belt, a good pair of boots that you wear once a year, or whatever, you keep those. So I had, you have a handful of these items in your life. Well, I realized I had some, expensive, good leather handbags, belts that I had had for probably 25, 30 years. And I was like, all right, this is it. This is the point of departure. And I donated everything, and I no longer have anything that's leather in my life. And that was the last thing for me. And even I looked around my house and I was like, okay, that pillow, I need to check out that throw pillow. I think it might have down in it. And it did.
Mm-hmm.
And I really love the pillow. A lot of these things, I loved them all. I've been keeping them. They're the last holdout for me, but I got rid of them all. And it's not to say, well, I'm better than anybody else, and I did all this. It helped me. I like talking about, again, being in alignment. I just felt so unburdened, and my soul felt lighter. And I felt like, this is where I want to be. This is really who I am. And I felt like I was really being true to myself, my soul, the animals, the planet, my mission here on life, what I was meant to do. And it was a really good thing. It was just really a wonderful thing for me. And so, that didn't happen overnight. Again, I'm 52 years old. I've been doing this stuff for years and years and years, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time. And so, just take a little baby step every day. If folks are listening to this, it's probably because they're animal lovers, and it's probably because they're interested in all of the things that we're talking about. And so you don't have to feel overwhelmed. You can do it a little bit at a time. There's nothing fancy or special about me. Diane said the same thing. We're just regular people doing regular things, trying to show everybody else that we're all the same. We're all one, and we can all make that work. So anyway, sorry, I'm rambling on that. I did want to ask another thing. I was, wonderful. I think it's wonderful how you're empowering others to make an easy transition to a plant-based lifestyle with your delicious recipes and cooking tutorials. So thank you. I also wanted to see, before we close out, if there's any stories or experiences that you could share that you had with your students or clients that demonstrate the positive impact of this approach.
Yes. Well, first of all, everybody after the cooking classes emails me and say, I loved it. I learned so much. And I'm watching people get more confident. That's the thing. They're getting a little more confident. Whether it's just a new tip that they got from it, or just, having no previous experience. Now they've watched a meal. They're like, okay, I can do this now. I get emails from attendees later on also about how now that meal is on regular rotation in their home. So it's like, yay, like we've replaced at least one meal, that they were traditionally cooking before with this new healthy meal. And then one of my favorite stories is one of my clients was, quote unquote, scared of tofu. Literally, that was her words. I'm scared of tofu, because she'd never cooked with it before. So I made her a couple of videos, and she attended the cooking class that you did. So she saw how tofu was used in that. recipe, which is optional because I don't think you use the tofu. And so it's optional, but she used it. And so and I made some videos for her. And then she went back and she did it herself. And she's like, I'm not scared of tofu anymore. That wasn't so bad. And
That's great.
yeah, and now she has a whole repertoire of recipes to cook. Her A1C diabetes numbers have come down.
Amazing.
She's lost a bunch of weight. Somebody else in my family who had some heart issues, I shared healthy plant-based with him, and he started losing some weight, and his A1C diabetes numbers were coming down. And one of my favorite stories is my husband was my first test subject, because right after I had finished the Cornell program, his cholesterol was like 258, and his doctor was going to put him on statins. And I said, wait, I just learned about like the health benefits here and I'm cooking more. Let me try it. Long story short, a few months later, after me cooking more and showing him all the different types of foods that he can eat, his cholesterol went from 258 to 178. So It's really amazing.
That's impressive.
It's really impressive. Yeah.
That's really great. The proof is there. It's in the numbers, right?
Proof in the numbers.
Yeah. Diane, thank you. As we wrap up our conversation, I was wondering, do you have a message that you like to share, a piece of advice, perhaps to leave with our listeners who are considering or are already on their plant-based journey?
Yes, this is totally doable. If I can do it, you can do it. I mean, Erica, I know you feel the same way. Like, if I can do it, you can do it. And yeah. I remember wanting to go vegan and being intimidated by it until I made that leap. And like, in retrospect, I'm like, well, that wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. Yeah. And then the same thing with trying the cooking. I was terrified. It sounded so hard, but I took it step by step. I took a class. I learned how to shop for the ingredients because I learned what they were. I followed a recipe, which I already knew how to do, but it just seemed like it was a whole new thing. But I realized it wasn't like it was a paper tiger. I had built this like thing up as this really big, scary thing that wasn't so scary. And yes, it was new, but that's okay. Like, aren't we here in this lifetime to like grow and learn new things anyway? So why not? And it's become fun. It's become like an activity in art, just something fun to do in my house. I'm constantly trying new recipes, and it's just become really, really fun for me. And now it's becoming kind of second nature. But I would say the cooking class that I originally took was really helpful. So I just encourage everybody to go for it. Start with a meal a day, or just like Mondays, they call it Meatless Mondays. Just try Meatless Mondays. There's just so many resources. People are welcome to reach out to me, even if you know you don't want to take a cooking class or don't want coaching. Just reach out to me. I want to help people get started, no matter what. I'm happy to help.
That's awesome. Thank you for that and that offer. And I will have all your information up on the website, on the Rising Lioness, on our podcast profile. So folks, reach out. Diane is offering her help, her assistance to you, and let her help take the fear out of this for you as well. It is totally doable, as we just learned. So thank you, Diane, for joining us today and sharing your insights on plant-based cooking and the positive impact it can have on animals, our health, and our planet. I truly hope that your work continues to inspire others to choose compassion and make a difference. And I thank everyone for listening or watching our podcast today, where we've heard about how plant-based cooking doesn't have to be complicated, restrictive, or expensive necessarily, but rather it can be easy, healthy, and fun to create, and of course, eat delectable plant-based food for ourselves and our families. My hope is that we all enjoy the health benefits of a plant-based diet and explore the world of cruelty-free cooking. And we can all make a difference together for the animals, our well-being, and the planet. So thank you, Diane, so much. I hope that we can do this again together sometime. And thank you, everyone. Wishing us all a beautiful day full of peace, happiness, and freedom from suffering for us all. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Erica. Thanks, bye, everybody.
I'll see you soon. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
This has been Erica Salvamini for the Rising Lioness Podcast on All About Animals Radio. A special thank you to Chris Corley for generously lending us his song, Zero Gravity for the Rising Lioness Podcast theme. Please take a moment to write a review for our show as it helps others to find us. Please also support our guests and their work, All About Animals Radio, and our social networks. Doing this further supports the animals and their advocates too, thereby making you an Animal Kingdom warrior also. You can find our links on the Rising Lioness podcast page. Until next time, in the words of Sharon Nunez, Animal Equality President, remember this: the small actions of one passionate individual can create a butterfly effect, leading to a movement that has the power to change the world. Please use your voice for the animals today.